The problem with the dream is not dream. It's the. Welcome to KnightVale. Good gentles and nobles, please be aware that there is a documentary crew on site headed by famous documentarian Ben Kearns. The Kingdom Seneschal reminds you that, because they are dressed in modern clothing and using modern equipment, per Article 5, Section 3 of In Corpora, they do not exist. Be sure to ignore them utterly, especially when they walk through the battlefield during scenarios. They've signed the waivers. That is all. Thank you, and enjoy the war.
Like many wars, the war for the crown had its roots in a simple dispute over who should be in charge. Sometime prior, at the coronation of the armor of Sir Albrecht von Schmutzenhelm and its consort, the bodice of Lady Catherine Bodicefiller, the reigning monarch, a sentient cloud primarily comprised of malice and LED lights, decided not to step down. After a brief tussle for the symbol of royalty, it was decided to hold a war to settle the dispute once and for all. While this may seem like a ridiculous reason to gather forces and engage in senseless bloodshed, it's certainly a better reason than that used for the First Pennsic, or any of the Estrella series of wars. The day began much like any other war, indeed, much like any other episode. How could the herald have known what lay in store? Indeed, how could anyone have known?
Here are the 10:66 a.m. announcements. Today's program is brought to you by social media, doing its best to make a bad situation much, much worse. The Autocrat would like to remind listeners that rain, thunder, and lightning are signs from the gods that the war is going well. If your camp is flooded, rejoice in the abundance of divine blessing. In accordance with the new kingdom rules, centaurs will be allowed for equestrian activities. Additionally, several other related events planned for today will include falconry, hound coursing, course hounding, alpaca mud wrestling, extreme emu evasion, chupacabra baiting, animal husbandry, animal wifery, animal divorce attorney, and animal undertaking. This week, our friend the basilisk. Page School has a full slate of activities. Where's Woodwoes, Ring Around John Barleycorn, and the ever-popular Children's Crusade. Be sure to pack a lunch. All gentles should proceed to the barn for the beginning of Great Court. Anyone currently participating in a merely good or somewhat middling court, cease and desist immediately. Here ends the morning announcements.
The events of that court are not often spoke of in polite conversation in public, but of that court, plenty has been written, and much has been dissected, most with permission from their next of kin. Probably the most cogent account was unearthed, months later, still legible, a testament to the scribe who assiduously remained at their post to the last. Of the herald who spake these thoughts, however, nothing remains but these words.
11:50 a.m. Oh, how I beam with pride at the approach of this grand procession, this meeting of the sum total of disparate, puissant forces representing each distant corner of our great society, joining here, together, under one roof, this stout edifice. Bless Dame Fortune that I have been thus chosen to be on this stage, to welcome forth the full assemblage, and to facilitate the operation of this great court. This year has represented a particularly challenging set of circumstances, what with the kingdom rulership in question. Precedence has been a matter of dispute. The known world holds its breath to see how this meeting plays out. As a herald, I confess that I feel I am in my element. This is the right time, the right place for my wisdom and counsel. What is discussed here may decide the fate of the society and the conduct of this meeting. Indeed, even the pageantry sets the stage for what is to come. And it begins with me. I have never felt so essential and so alive. Noon. The known world is changing. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. I smell it on the air. Or is that just the privies? In accordance with Master Pauly's exclusion principle, two prospective monarchs' forces cannot simultaneously occupy the same space. This violates both the laws of the society and, to a lesser extent, physics, although it's possible they have a waiver for the latter. Thus, neither side appears willing to permit the other to enter first through the main entrance, lest they admit to being lower in the order of precedence. Two great armies have stood at an impasse for the past 10 minutes, neither yielding nor giving any quarter. The immovable force of air meeting the irresistible object of iron. The impatient sun threatens to melt the retinue in their armor and finery into a river of patriotic tallow. 12:15 p.m. The rows are finally filling in now. Some brave person, from which faction I cannot say, attempted to squeeze past the hosts. An equally bold soul from the other side did the same simultaneously. And just like that, the crowd imploded inward into the center aisle. But the surge is too much for the tiny space provided. There is a mass of bodies fused into one gigantic lump in the middle of the area, and none can pass. 12:30 p.m. The East Kingdom has grown impatient and is attempting to enter as well, but has been stopped at the back row lest they be added to the hungering nexus of fused humanity. The Middle Kingdom, not wanting the East to get to their seats first, has cut holes in the sides of the barn and are attempting to sneak in from there. In retaliation, the East has now divided its forces in two, heading left and right to the ends of the back row in an attempt to surge forward from there and engage the Mid-Realm forces in a Horns of the Bull maneuver. The Marchlands have given up and are erecting their own tent outside, perhaps in an attempt to form their own kingdom, as long as it begins with an A. 12:45. No one's seen the West Kingdom at all. We think they overslept. 1 p.m. The other kingdoms have thus far hung back in deference to the inviolate order of precedence, but seem to have decided that this might finally be their chance to increase their standing. Anstiora seems particularly enthusiastic about this. And now so does Atlantia, having uttered something about Alexander of Gordium before breaking into a full charge. The lone exception is Callantyr, who have taken up a position outside and are feverishly and furiously composing laments to the lives that are about to be lost right now. The mass of people appears to be stuck, and growing. In this singularity, all kingdoms and factions are suddenly, frighteningly, becoming one. It has its own gravity, and space seems to be dwindling. Oxygen seems to be a precious commodity. We cannot get out. The end comes, and then Doombex in the deep.
This has been Traffic. We would like to remind the Pelicans they are not to use their own blood to sign documents. That's what protégés are for. The theme for this weekend's on-site cooking competition is siege cooking. Those who sign up will have their camps laid siege to for the entirety of the event by an oppressive darkness and feral wolves, at the end of which they must provide a 7-course feast for the attended land and baronage. Extra points this year for plating, garnish, and wine selection. If you have arrived late to site, don't forget to pay your site fee. The troll is under the bridge on the battlefield. Good luck! Now it's time for the pre-battle augury. It is of paramount importance to consult with a person from the Seerage Council before undertaking today's war, so the Chirurgeons can know ahead of time what supplies they're going to need, and for the participants to actively decide whether they want to embrace or foolishly attempt to thwart their inevitable doom, because we have learned nothing from the Greeks.
Now for this week's horoscopes. Virgo, you've just won an all-expense-paid trip to lovely Anstiora. You don't remember entering a contest? That's okay. You'll love it there. Just remember to get your shots beforehand and don't touch any of the local flora and fauna. Aries, I think they saw you, Aries. Hold still. They cannot see you if you do not move. Shh. Don't move. Don't move. Don't. Nope. The Page School definitely saw you. So long, Aries. Scorpio, all eyes are on you. Oh, that's really gross. Please return them to the ANS as they were not finished judging them for the competition. And for our 13th sign, the Elysian Viking. Ja, sure, you betcha. This has been Horoscopes.
Oh, well, that makes it all perfectly clear now. Thank you, Madam Duckstreet, our favorite quack.
The transcript ends there, but other documents from the College of Arms archive provide more details about the various forces on the battlefield, including the Are They Even Bodkins, an Ermine Company Dormant, and the host of animate mercenary trees called Burnhamwood, led by their commander, Mark Antony. This last unit was seen by many to be the linchpin of the entire war, doing great deeds, until the fated missing field battle. But to give better context for these deeds, let's turn to an excerpt from the transcript of the battle, as recorded by the College of Arms.
The first battle will be a resurrection battle, not a resuscitation battle, as earlier reported. Unfortunately, for those of you chomping at the bit to show off your most creative death, be advised that the battered helm will not be awarded this year, as the regalia for this honor is currently part of the Crown Prince. All warranted marshals and necromancers wishing to participate in the resurrection battle, please report to the warfield. Following this battle, the remainder of today's war schedule will be as follows: Broken Field Battle, Repaired Field Battle, Missing Field Battle, Bridge to Nowhere Battle, and the ever-popular Castle Battle. It looks like the Glow Cloud, all hail, has won the coin toss despite having no arms, registered or corporeal. The armor has elected to defend the downwind goal. Now, like my grandmother used to say when she neutered a dragon, and they're off. I will be giving you up-to-the-second details of every little minutia of this battle as I see fit. There is so much to describe here, I'm going to have to talk very fast to cover all of this. This is incredible. Never in my wildest dreams have I seen such.
Good gentles and nobles, this is Hannah Storymaker-Upper standing in briefly for Harold. He was unfortunately in the direct path of an armored charge, followed by a group of water-bearers, pursued by a brace of pelicans, and finally run down by a pack of rabid page school children. As soon as he is checked out by the chirurgeon, I'm sure he'll be back to continuing his announcements. In the meantime, it seems there is some controversy over the legality of the projectiles being used during this battle. The ballista with the explosive warhead seems to be causing some concern amongst the fighters, but the siege weapon marshal is assuring everyone that the ammo does have the required 2 inches of progressive give needed. Both sides appear to have deployed machinery specifically targeted towards the opposing monarch. Their Majesty's forces assembled an astonishing array of armor-piercing rounds, while the Crown Prince's army constructed a battery of siege windmills, the latter having the additional effect of attracting the attention of several ancient and befuddled knights in Spanish persona, who promptly charged. They will be missed. The round's fighting is winding down. Marshals have reported that they have taken care of and removed the unauthorized zombies which appeared during the resurrection battle. It appears that one of the necromancers was not up to date with their authorization. Their card, and they, have expired.
While informative, this transcript does not completely capture the passion and anguish of those who experienced the battle firsthand. Fortunately, a cache of correspondence was recently discovered inside an old shoebox, hidden beneath a pile of moldering loner armor slated for incineration. Listen as the combatants recount the battles in their own words.
My dearest Caroline, the last Ent fell today. It was the end of the missing field battle. The very ground had shattered beneath our feet, great swaths of land plunging into the devouring void, falling, and taking with them those unfortunate souls who could not escape to more stable ground in time. I fear Mark Antony was one of those swallowed. As he fell, he reached out and I was almost touching him. He almost touching me. Sweet Caroline, oh, such a great and shattering loss. I think I will never witness again in my life. I wish such comfort as may be had to his widow. the Gorgon Cleopatra. He will be missed. Yours ever, Neil.
As the combatants took a well-earned break between battles, little did they know that the looming castle battle would be the last battle of that war. Our records tell us that both the Glow Cloud and the armor issued stirring, inspirational speeches that day. Let us turn now to the words of Redacted in a letter to her brother to give us a sense of what might have been said by one of those two great leaders on this, the eve of their final confrontation.
To Quentin, my dear brother. Alas that you should be so absent from this momentous war, and most especially from this tremendous moment. As we prepared for our assault on the castle in which the perfidious Glow Cloud and its forces had entrenched themselves, His Royal Highness the Armor delivered to us a most stirring speech, the likes of which I have never heard before, nor do I expect I shall ever hear again. Quoting from the immortal and undead bard, His Royal Highness commanded us to set the strap and stretch the bassinet wide. Hold hard the breastplate and bend up every spirit to its full height. On he spurred us, and on, whipping us up to a frothing fury till the very blood was roaring in my veins like a lion, and with a final cry he charged for armor, West, and Saint Bernard. Baying like hounds, we charged into the fray. But the hour grows late and I grow tired. The faint glow of my skin is no longer enough light to write by. I shall pen more tomorrow of the glorious battle. Your favorite sister, or else, Redacted.
The Glow Cloud also had the words of Shakespeare on its mind as it rallied its forces. While I've always been partial to the light entertainment of Titus Andronicus, this snippet perhaps best exemplifies the martial spirit in the air, literally, that day.
Now is the wind of our discontent made glorious stillness by this cloud of glow. For I, the cloud, hath lowered upon our foes, and in the deep bosom of the earth buried.
The Society usually frowns upon self-insertion fanfic, but this particular case was granted an exception by the simple expedient of no one wanting to tell the Glow Cloud otherwise. To what extent these stirring words spurred the sides onto victory and glory, we can only imagine. Truly, every ounce of strength, stamina, and determination was in sore demand, for the next battle was to determine the fate of the war, nay, the fate of the Society. It began, as most battles do, with a herald.
Gentles, after several false starts, the castle for the next scenario has been set up. The ground originally chosen was less of a field than it was a swamp. The Kingdom engineers were having difficulty constructing the edifice before it just fell over at least 3 times. But the last one stayed up. The Glow Cloud, all hail, as the reigning monarch, will defend the castle, while the armor's forces will lay siege. This is it, gentles. At the end of this battle, we will have our new king. Or maybe the old one. And speaking of siege weapons, you may be able to hear one very special piece of society history as it passes by here. Our first and oldest implement of war. Yes, it's the Fleeg engine. It is old, creaky, and needs oiling, but it has been used in every single war since the founding of the Society. Listen to the armor's forces chanting, Fleeg! 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 That's important, as the incantation is being used to keep the engine in one piece. It's held together by spells and force of will, and a lot of duct tape. And it looks like the wheels may not make it all the way to the castle. You can see the strain on the knights and the sorcerers from here. They're trying their darndest. Well, I suppose that's tradition as well. There's only one way it's moving the rest of the way. I hope they brought enough squires this time. The armor has promised a barony to the first gentle to penetrate the castle walls. And it appears that Bjorn Halfthought has scaled the Fleeg engine, displaced the usual complement of cats, and is inserting himself into the bucket. Well, may fortune favor the flung. And it looks like he's going to make it. Truly, he is about to be a landed baron. Well, he's landed. I'll have to check the table of alternate titles. Is Your Splattered Excellency a valid form of address? The armor's forces have reached the castle walls. But what's this? Their Majesty's army appears to have gotten a hold of the boiling oil from the siege cooking competition earlier today. Well, that does seem rather appropriate. They're waiting for the signal from their Majesty to begin dumping.
And here's the pitch.
Oh my, there's quite a lot of steam. It's tough to see from this vantage point as to what's actually going on. For a better perspective on both this battle and the potential consequences to both kingdom and society, let's turn to Society President Bear the John Killer with a bod's eye view.
The commentary from President Bear John Killer has been lost to history, but eyewitness accounts generally agree that midway through offering his perspective to the herald, he paused, shook his head as if struck by a revelation, and waded into the fray himself. Flanked by the 4 insurance riders of the apocalypse, Bear pushed his way past the front lines and into the castle himself. The battlefield grew deadly still, the only sound in the air being the snapping of silk and polyester banners in the breeze. Our final account, also from the College of Arms archives, reveals what happened next.
Good gentles, during the break in the battle, Bear the John Killer parleyed with the Glow Cloud. He explained that, as president of the society, he held power and authority over all the kingdoms in the known world. More importantly, he explained that, after slaying the last non-domesticated privy in the known world, he was ready to appoint a successor. Impressed by the Glow Cloud's omniscience, Bear had decided to offer the reins of the society to the amorphous entity. And as the Glow Cloud accepted, its size grew and grew, until it encompassed the entire horizon and beyond. What was once the nightmare of our own beautiful kingdom is now a shared dream of all, for better or worse. And with that, the war for the crown has finally come to an end. As the society president cannot simultaneously be a monarch, the armor of Albrecht von Schmutzenhelm fully ascends to the throne. Even now, the invisible cosmic forces are affixing the crown in a position hovering 9 inches above the armor's gorget, and the ladies of the rose are filling the consort's décolletage with bouquet after bouquet of their titular flower. Long live the king! Long live the queen! As the peers line up to swear their blood oaths of fealty, I'd better get in line. So until next time, good night, KnightVale. Good night.
Welcome to KnightVale is produced in association with the Golden Stag Players and performed by Ghislaine Triest, Aimeric de Fois, Cormac Mor, Aasa Thorvaldsdottir, with special guest appearances by Juan Santiago, Fabian Arnett von Schwetzingen, Fredrick of Holland, Colin MacLear, and Beata Augusta von Ickenheim, with technical support and engineering by Alessandro Cantorii. Directed and produced by Juan Santiago. Music is Hieronymus Bosch butt music. Arrangement created by James Spalink and performed by Andro, used with permission. Inspired by, and with the blessings and proper incantations of, the podcast Welcome to KnightVale by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Craner.
Today's proverb: Ad eundum quo nemo ante iit. To boldly go where no one has gone before.